The human man kidnapped the alien woman. Now the whole world is after the human man. The alarms were already screaming when Kael slid down the polished marble corridor, boots squealing against a surface meant for quiet diplomacy rather than criminal escape. He clutched the plasma cutter in one hand, a device that was meant to slice open cargo crates, but now doubled as a threat against guards who kept showing up at exactly the wrong time. His heart hammered, but his grin was wide, mostly because grinning helped him forget that the fortress security system had logged his DNA about 17 times already. He ducked into a chamber glowing with soft golden light. Here, the air smelled of incense and sterile recirculation, like a temple trapped inside a laboratory. At the center stood a shimmering barrier of energy, and behind it, perched like a caged jewel, was the strangest prisoner he had ever seen. She looked human at first glance, tall, slender, with dark hair braided into an intricate crown, but her ears curved long and elegant, twitching faintly as though they had minds of their own. Her gaze snapped to him the instant he stumbled in, and for a moment Kael forgot the alarms. She regarded him not with fear, but with irritation, as though he had interrupted an afternoon nap. "You're late," she said coolly. Kael blinked. What? I've been waiting for someone incompetent enough to trip half the fortress defenses. Congratulations. That's you." He opened his mouth, closed it, then forced a crooked smile. "Right. Glad we're on the same page. Now, hold still while I make the world's worst jailbreak happen." He aimed the plasma cutter at the shimmering barrier, pressed the trigger, and nearly blinded himself when the energy field collapsed with a violent hiss. Sparks rained down, singeing his jacket sleeve. He yelped and patted at the small flames, muttering, "Smooth as always, Kael. Professional grade." The woman stepped out of the ruined barrier with regal composure, ignoring the smoke curling from his shoulder. Up close, her long ears twitched again, betraying some flicker of curiosity. "Do you have a name?" she asked, voice sharp as crystal. "Kael," he said quickly, tugging her toward the corridor. "Yours, Lyssara, daughter of the High Regent of Eloria, which means if you don't move faster, you'll die in about 42 different poetic ways my father's admirals like to invent." "Well, I was hoping for a low-profile job tonight," Kael muttered, dragging her along. "Instead, I kidnap a princess. My life choices are fantastic." She sniffed, unimpressed. "You didn't kidnap me. You rescued me." He snorted. "You're welcome. Though if anyone asks, you totally kidnapped me instead." They tore down the hallways together, dodging plasma bolts that hissed past like angry hornets. Kael tried not to notice that Lyssara moved with perfect grace, while he looked like a malfunctioning cleaning droid skidding on soap. When they rounded a corner, 3 armored guards blocked the path, rifles raised. Kael froze. "Okay, quick question, can you fight?" Lyssara arched an elegant brow. "Can you? Depends on how much running counts as fighting." Before the guards could fire, Lyssara lifted her hands, and the lights overhead flickered violently. A surge of electromagnetic energy rippled down the corridor, short-circuiting the guards' armor. Sparks cascaded from their chest plates as they collapsed in a heap, groaning. Kael's jaw dropped. "You could have done that the whole time. I was waiting to see if you'd prove entertaining." "Glad my near-death flailing has audience approval," he muttered, hustling her toward the docking bay. The ship waited like a beaten dog, rust streaks on its hull, thrusters patched with duct tape and prayer. The boarding ramp groaned open, and Kael shoved Lyssara inside. The moment they strapped in, the fortress outer defenses lit up, sending volleys of plasma streaking toward them. Kael wrestled the controls, muttering, "Come on, old girl, just one more miracle." Engines sputtered, coughed, then roared alive. The ship lurched free of the docking clamps, narrowly avoiding a plasma torpedo that vaporized the bay they'd just left. Lyssara clutched the seat armrest, ears flat against her skull. "This contraption flies?" "Most days," Kael said, gritting his teeth. "Other days, it falls really convincingly." The ship punched through the upper atmosphere, alarms shrieking louder than before. Kael slapped every switch he could reach, whispering encouragement like the vessel was an old pet. Somehow, against all reason, they broke into the quiet darkness of space. For a brief, dizzy moment, silence reigned. Stars stretched before them, cold and eternal, while the fortress shrank into a glittering dot. Kael leaned back, laughing breathlessly. See? Easy job. No sweat. Lyssara turned toward him, her expression unreadable. Do you know what you've done, human? He swallowed. Stolen a very shiny prisoner? You've stolen the regent's daughter. You've stolen me. And now the entire Elorian armada will hunt you until you are nothing but ash scattered across the void. Kael groaned, dropping his head against the console. I was really hoping you were just an accountant or something. Her ears twitched, and to his surprise, her lips curved into the faintest smile. You are either the bravest or the most foolish man alive. He lifted his head, grinning despite the terror curling in his gut. Why not both? The ship shuddered as warning lights flared again. Enemy ships already in pursuit. Kael tightened his grip on the controls, adrenaline surging. He hadn't planned this, hadn't thought it through, but it was too late to go back. He'd stolen Lyssara, and with her, he'd stolen the fury of two worlds. As the first enemy cruiser loomed into view, Lyssara leaned closer, voice barely a whisper. Why did you choose me, human? Kael stared at the oncoming fire and let out a shaky laugh. Haven't figured that part out yet. And with that, the stars erupted into war. Kael swore he could feel the ship groaning beneath his boots, as if even the metal knew it wasn't meant to outrun an Elorian pursuit cruiser. The whole vessel rattled like a tin can kick down a stairwell, but somehow the engines kept spitting fire instead of dying outright. He slammed one more switch, and the ship lurched sideways with a screech of stressed plating. Behind them, streaks of light carved the void, missiles, bright and merciless. Kael yanked the stick, and the ship dove into the shadow of a moon whose surface looked like someone had taken a hammer to it for a few million years. The missiles skated wide, detonating in a spray of color. In the co-pilot's chair, Lyssara crossed her arms and arched a brow. Do you fly? Or do you improvise with gravity and bad luck? Why choose? Kael muttered, wrestling the ship upright. Besides, luck and I have a complicated relationship. She cheats at cards. Lyssara's ears twitched, the alien equivalent of rolling her eyes. She tapped the console, summoning a holographic star map. Dozens of red markers pulsed around their position. They're broadcasting your image across 3 systems already. Apparently, you're a traitor, a thief, and a reckless idiot who endangers all of Earth. Kael winced. Reckless idiot, sure. Thief? Questionable. Traitor? That one stings. Considering you kidnapped the High Regent's daughter, I'd say the labels are accurate. Kidnapped? No. Rescued. It sounds nobler, less punishable by disintegration. Semantics will not save you when they catch us. Kael leaned back, running a hand through his hair. Then let's make sure they don't catch us. I know a place. A junkyard on the rim where ships go to die. The owner owes me a favor. She regarded him carefully. What sort of favor? The kind that involves me not telling people he married his own smuggling droid. Don't ask. Long story. Lyssara let out a laugh, sharp and surprised, as though she hadn't expected him to be amusing. For a moment the tension in the cabin eased, even as the warning lights flickered again. They slipped through the battered asteroid rings of the moon, weaving among spinning rocks the size of Kael's ship. Each collision warning screamed like a banshee, but he threaded the path with reckless confidence. Lyssara's grip on the armrest tightened, though she refused to show fear. You know, she said, voice calm despite the chaos. On Eloria, pilots undergo 10 years of training before flying alone. Yeah, but do they get the thrill of nearly dying every 10 seconds? Builds character. Or funerals. Kael chuckled, narrowly dodging an asteroid that scraped paint from the hull. See, still alive. Perfect record. By the time they burst free of the asteroid field, the pursuit cruiser had lost ground. Kael exhaled, leaning back in his seat as stars stretched once more before them. He killed the external lights, plunging the cockpit into a soft glow of instruments and Lyssara's faintly luminescent gaze. For a while, silence stretched. Then she turned toward him. Why did you come for me? He swallowed, staring hard at the star map. I didn't plan it. I heard whispers about someone being locked up in that fortress. Someone important. Didn't sit right with me. Plenty of people are imprisoned. Why risk everything for one? Kael sighed. Because I've seen cages. Doesn't matter if they're iron bars or golden walls. They still kill the same way. You deserved better. Her ears twitched again, softer this time. She regarded him as though trying to peel back his layers. You speak like a man who has been caged himself. He forced a laugh. Let's just say Earth isn't kind to people who don't follow its neat little rules. I prefer my rules messy. The moment threatened to grow too heavy, so Kael slapped the console. Anyway, speaking of messy, our oxygen recycler's making noises like a dying walrus. If we suffocate, at least we won't have to worry about bounty hunters. Lyssara tilted her head. What is a walrus? Kael grinned. Large earth creature. Tusks. Smells terrible. I used to know a guy who tried to ride one. And he lost 2 teeth. The walrus didn't care. To his relief, she laughed again, a clear, melodic sound that filled the cockpit. The sound startled him more than any missile barrage. They dropped into hyperspace with a bone-jarring shudder, stars stretching into ribbons of light. Kael leaned back, exhausted but buzzing with adrenaline. Lyssara unfolded from her seat and moved to the ship's narrow galley, inspecting the sad lineup of ration packs. She held one up, squinting. What is dehydrated curry surprise? What is the surprise? Kael groaned. That it tastes worse hydrated. She raised her brows. Humans wage wars over spices, yet you consume this. I'm not proud. As she prodded the ration pack with aristocratic disdain, Kael caught himself watching her poise, her curiosity, the way her long ears flicked like punctuation to her words. He shook himself, muttering, Careful, Kael. First you rescue the princess. Next thing you know, you're writing her poetry. Bad poetry. Lyssara glanced back, smirking faintly. I heard that. Good. Saves me the trouble of saying it twice. The ship hummed quietly around them, battered but alive, carrying them deeper into the unknown. Beyond the hull, both Earth and Eloria spread their nets, broadcasting threats, summoning fleets, spinning stories about betrayal and war. But in the narrow cabin of a junkie ship, with laughter echoing over the taste of terrible rations, Kael allowed himself to believe, for just one fragile moment, that maybe survival was possible. Then the console beeped with an urgent alert, dragging him back to reality. Lyssara leaned over his shoulder, ears twitching sharply. What is it? Kael's grin faded. A transmission. Earth's battlecruiser. They found us. The message filled the cabin with a voice that managed to sound bored and furious at the same time. This is Commander Harlan of the Earth Defense Fleet. Kael Draven, you are ordered to surrender immediately. Failure to comply will result in your ship being vaporized, your ashes collected, and possibly recycled into fertilizer. You have 1 minute. Kael winced. Fertilizer? That's new. Usually they just say prison or death. Lyssara tilted her head. Do they often threaten to compost you? More often than you'd think, he muttered, fiddling with the comm switch. He pressed it, plastered on a grin the commander couldn't see, and said, Commander Harlan, always a pleasure. How's the family? Still allergic to seafood? There was a pause on the line. Then, you've got 40 seconds. Lyssara smirked. Your charm is overwhelming. Kael cut the comm and leaned back. Okay, new plan, not dying. Suggestions. Lyssara tapped the console, eyes narrowing as streams of data scrolled across the display. They've locked onto our trajectory. We cannot outrun them in this sector. But perhaps, she traced a finger across the star map, landing on a field of twisted signals. The Mir 9 debris belt. Dense, unstable, full of electromagnetic storms. Dangerous. Perfect. Kael stared. Perfect? That sounds like the opposite of perfect. They will not risk pursuit in such chaos. Right, because they're smart. Unlike us. Her long ears twitched. Do you have a better idea? Kael groaned. Fine. Let's take the scenic death route. He slammed the controls, and the ship lurched toward the churning cluster of rocks and wreckage. Behind them, The battlecruiser fired a warning shot that lit up the void. Lyssara raised a brow. They are serious. Yeah, but so am I. And so is this ship. Probably. The debris belt swallowed them in moments. Asteroids the size of mountains spun past, their surfaces scarred by ancient impacts. Shards of broken satellites tumbled in slow spirals, sparks flickering as electromagnetic storms flared between fragments. The ship shook violently, alarms shrieking like offended banshees. Kael wrestled the controls, muttering, "Piece of cake. A cake made of dynamite, maybe, but still cake." Lyssara clutched the side of her chair, though her face remained calm. On Eloria, we would never attempt such a maneuver. On Earth, we call this Tuesday. The first asteroid skimmed so close it scraped fresh metal scars across their hull. Sparks cascaded inside the cabin. Lyssara's ears flicked at the sound, but she did not flinch. Instead, she glanced at him with a faint smirk. "Do you normally pilot ships like drunken animals?" "Depends which animal." Kael gritted, jerking the stick hard. "Right now, I'm going for panic squirrel." Their laughter was cut short when the console flared with another alert. "Incoming signature." Kael read aloud, squinting. "Not Earth. Not Elorian. Bounty hunters." As if the asteroids weren't enough, 3 sleek ships streaked into view, painted with jagged neon markings. They moved with predatory grace, weaving through the chaos as though the belt were a dance floor. Lyssara frowned. "They mean to capture, not kill. Their weapons are set to disable." Kael groaned. "Great. I always wanted to be merchandise." One hunter ship fired an energy net that crackled in the void, expanding like a glowing web. Kael slammed the thrusters, diving under a tumbling chunk of debris. The net snagged the rock instead, wrapping it in sizzling light before imploding spectacularly. Kael hooped. "Huh. Too slow." Another ship swooped closer, cannons blazing. Lyssara raised her hand, closing her eyes. The lights in the cockpit flickered, and the hunter's weapons sputtered mid-fire. Sparks burst across its hull, sending it spiraling into an asteroid. Kael's jaw dropped. "You can do that." "Occasionally," she said, opening her eyes. "It drains energy. And patience." "Guess I'll handle the patience part," he muttered, jerking the controls again. The last hunter ship clung stubbornly to their tail, weaving between rocks with almost insulting precision. Kael tried a barrel roll, but the maneuver sent a seat sliding and a toolbox crashing onto his foot. He yelped, "Legendary barrel roll of doom, my ass." Lyssara actually laughed, a clear, ringing sound, even as the hunter ship closed in. Kael, desperate, toggled the weapon system, which had been sulking in standby mode since takeoff. The targeting reticle blinked once, twice, then fizzled out with a pathetic beep. "Of course," he muttered. "Who needs working guns anyway?" Lyssara leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Divert the ship into that cluster of fragments. Close as you can." Kael didn't question. He dove, threading the ship through a narrow corridor of spinning debris. The hunter followed, faster and more precise. At the last instant, Lyssara touched the console, channeling energy through her fingertips. The fragments convulsed, pulled by an invisible surge, and slammed together. The hunter ship vanished in a burst of fire and shrapnel. Silence followed, broken only by the groaning of Kael's ship. He exhaled shakily. "Remind me never to play cards with you. You cheat." She tilted her head, smirking faintly. "I win." Despite the chaos, Kael felt laughter bubbling up in his chest. He shook his head. "You know, for someone who just turned me into the most wanted man in 2 galaxies, you're not half bad." Her smile softened, though her gaze lingered on the stars beyond the shattered field. "We are hunted by both our people now, yet you still make jokes." "It's either that," Kael said, leaning back in his chair, "or curl up in a ball and cry. And I'm really bad at crying gracefully." Lyssara's laugh joined his, echoing softly in the battered cockpit as the debris belt thinned and the stars opened before them again. But the reprieve was fragile. Both knew it wouldn't last. As the NAV system finally stabilized, Kael muttered, "Next stop, that junkyard. We'll patch the ship, eat something disgusting, and pretend the galaxy isn't trying to kill us." Lyssara's ears flicked, amused. Pretending is one thing humans excel at. Damn right, Kael said, flipping switches. Now let's go practice. The junkyard rose out of the void like a mountain of corpses, a graveyard of twisted hulls and forgotten machines. Kael steered his ship into the maze of wreckage with the ease of a man who had spent too many years hiding in places where even garbage went to die. The comm crackled, and a gravelly voice barked. Kael Draven, if that's you, you still owe me 3 cases of synthetic rum and an apology for breaking my loader bot. Kael grinned. Rudhar, old friend. I told you. The loader bot broke itself. I merely encouraged it. There was a long pause, then laughter like a landslide. Dock in Base 6. If you dent anything on the way in, I'm keeping your engines as payment. Lyssara raised a brow. Your acquaintances sound charming. Kael shrugged. You get used to the threats. It's how they say hello. They descended through a canyon of wreckage, sliding between derelict battleships and rusting freighters. The docking clamps seized their hull with a groan, and the bay door sealed them into stale air heavy with ozone and oil. Rudhar was waiting, a mountain of metal arms and mismatched plating, more machine than man now. He lumbered forward, one glowing eye narrowing at Kael. You look like hell, and you smell worse. Good to see you too, Kael said cheerfully. Ruther's gaze shifted to Lyssara, lingering on her long ears. His voice dropped. You brought trouble. Lyssara met his stare without flinching. Trouble usually follows him, does it not? Rudhar barked out another laugh. I like her already. Let's get you patched before someone tracks your sorry hide here. They followed him through cluttered corridors, piled high with scavenged tech. Kael tripped over a loose conduit, and Lyssara caught him by the elbow with maddening grace. Do you fall often, or only when attempting to look impressive? Falling is part of the charm, Kael muttered. In the repair bay, Ruther's drone swarmed the ship, sparks and welds lighting up the dark. Kael slumped onto a crate, watching metal plates slide back into place. For the first time in days, his shoulders sagged with something close to relief. Lyssara perched beside him, her posture impossibly regal even on a grease-stained crate. Your friend seems loyal. Kael nodded. Saved my life once. I returned the favor by ruining his best drinking night. We've been even ever since. Their banter faded when Rudhar rolled back in, holding a datapad with a grim expression. Your faces are everywhere. Earth has declared you a traitor, Kael, and Deloria has branded you a war criminal, Lyssara. You've started a fire neither side can put out. Kael rubbed his temples. I was aiming for mild inconvenience, not interstellar conflict. Lyssara's voice was quiet. They would have used me as a bargaining piece. My father locked me away so Earth could pretend we were allies. My existence became currency. Kael looked at her sharply. So you knew. I suspected. Now I am certain. She straightened, ears flicking with defiance. I will not be traded like a gem at market. Kael tried for humor, though his throat felt tight. Good, because I'm terrible at haggling. Her lips curved faintly, but her eyes burned with something harder. You risked everything to free me, Kael. Was it only pity? He opened his mouth, closed it again, fumbling for words. I just couldn't leave you there. It didn't feel right. Silence stretched between them, heavy and fragile. Then Rudhar broke it with a booming laugh. Stars above, I should charge double for patching this ship while you two make eyes at each other. Kael flushed. We're not. Lyssara cut him off smoothly. Of course not. He lacks the grace. Rudhar chuckled, shaking his head. Whatever you say, princess. They spent the next hours in uneasy quiet, watching the ship repaired piece by piece. Kael tried to busy himself by sorting tools, but Lyssara's words echoed in his head. He glanced at her once, caught her watching him, and quickly looked away. Later, when the work was nearly done, Rudhar handed Kael a sealed container. Supplies. Food, water, parts. Enough to keep you flying. But Kael, listen to me. Both sides will not stop until you're dead or delivered. You can't keep running forever. Kael forced a grin. Forever's overrated anyway. Lyssara's gaze softened. though her voice carried steel. Then we make them stop. We show them we are not weapons, not pawns. We choose our own path. Kael studied her, something fierce rising in his chest. Sounds suicidal. Sounds necessary, she countered. Rudhar shook his head. You too are mad. But maybe madness is what the galaxy needs. As Kael guided Lyssara back toward the ship, she leaned closer. Do you regret it? Regret what? Taking me. Kael hesitated, then smiled crookedly. Not yet. Ask me again after the next dozen near-death escapes. Her laugh rang clear, bright against the shadows of the junkyard. For a fleeting moment, Kael almost believed they could survive this. But as they lifted off, the long-range sensors flared alive with hostile signals. Earth cruisers, Elorian scouts. Both sides had found them. Kael gripped the controls, heart pounding. Guess the honeymoon's over. Lyssara's ears flicked, eyes narrowing with determination. Then let's give them a wedding gift they'll never forget. The void outside their ship glowed with the fire of two converging fleets. Earth's cruisers formed a wall of steel, angular and cold, while Eloria's needle-shaped warships sliced through the dark like predators. Kael's ship, patched and groaning, sat at the center of the storm, a speck between giants. Lyssara stood behind him, her voice calm despite the sirens. They mean to destroy us both. One to erase a traitor, the other to silence a runaway. Kael swallowed. Great. We're the galaxy's most dangerous romantic comedy. Romantic. Her ears flicked. Debatable, he muttered, gripping the calm. All right. Let's try honesty. Worst that happens, we get vaporized. Best that happens, they laugh us out of existence instead. He flipped the switch, his voice echoing across both fleets. Attention, everyone pointing guns at us. This is Kael Draven, certified reckless idiot. Before you shoot, maybe hear me out. I didn't kidnap Lyssara. I didn't plan a war. I just couldn't stomach watching her locked in a cage, so you politicians could use her like poker chips. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then Lyssara stepped forward, brushing his shoulder aside, her voice clear and sharp. He speaks the truth. I am not a prize to be traded. I am not a hostage, nor a weapon. I am Lyssara of Eloria, and I choose my own fate. Her words rolled across the calms like thunder. On Earth's side, hesitation rippled through the cruisers. On Eloria's side, officers murmured uncertainly. Both fleets wavered, their perfect formations trembling. Kael leaned back, whispering, Did we just break to governments with a speech? Lyssara's lips curved. Perhaps. The commanders tried to rally, but their words carried less fire now. Soldiers heard Lyssara's defiance, saw Kael's stubborn grin, and found no taste for annihilation. Cannons dimmed. Engines cooled. For the first time since Kael had pried open that prison cell, the galaxy hesitated. Ruther's voice crackled over a private channel, gruff and amused. Well, you've done it now. The great idiot and the long-eared heiress, out talking two Armadas. I'll drink to that. Kael laughed weakly. Save me a glass. Assuming I survive. The stalemate stretched until, one by one, the ships withdrew. Earth's fleet broke formation, retreating with wary silence. Eloria's ships followed, regal but shaken. No truce was signed, no grand treaty declared, but the war was postponed by something rarer than strategy doubt. Kael slumped in his chair, exhausted. So we're alive. Somehow. Any chance they'll just forget about us? Lyssara shook her head. Not forget, but they will fear what we represent. That may protect us more than any fleet. He managed a grin. You make rebellion sound romantic. Debatable, she echoed softly, though her smile reached her eyes. They set a course away from the contested sector, stars stretching out like open roads. For the first time, no one chased them. The silence in the cockpit felt almost unnatural. Kael broke it with a groan. So what now? We start a farm. Hide on some moon? Open a restaurant serving dehydrated curry surprise. Lyssara's ears twitched, amused. You are not suited for farming. Or cooking. True. I'd kill the crops and poison the customers. She leaned closer, voice steady. We carve our own path. No thrones. No cages. Only choice. Kael studied her, realizing the truth of it. He wasn't the same man who had broken into that fortress. He wasn't running just for survival anymore. He was running toward something. Toward freedom. Toward her. Toward a life unshackled from other people's rules. He grinned, softer this time. Fine. Our own path. But if we die, I'm blaming your dramatic speeches. And I will blame your terrible piloting. They both laughed, the sound echoing across the ship's battered walls. Outside, the stars shimmered, endless and untamed. The galaxy would remember the fugitive and the heiress who defied empires. But for Kael and Lyssara, it was simpler than that. They were no longer prisoners of anyone else's story. They were free.